The bustling spaceport of Lyra IX hummed with the constant roar of engines and chatter of alien merchants. Among the tall, slender aliens with multiple limbs and glowing eyes, there was one figure who drew suspicion and gossip wherever she went. Her name was Kara Vesh. They called her the crazy alien widow, a relic of the last border war, and most aliens avoided her. Her freighter, battered and scarred, had survived more battles than any local patrol dared to remember. There were whispers about her past, about how her husband had been killed in a political betrayal that left her alone in the galaxy. People said she was dangerous, unpredictable, unstable. Yet when Captain Elias Tren first saw her, he did not notice the whispers or the warnings. He noticed a survivor. Elias had traveled far from human space to the outer rim, investigating reports of enemy fleets moving toward the core systems. Most humans would have dismissed Kara's warnings as the ramblings of someone broken by grief. But Elias had learned long ago that survival often depended on listening to those who had lived through horrors that others could not imagine. He did not see a crazy alien widow. He saw intelligence, experience, and a determination that mirrored humanity itself. Humans were not invincible, but they had something that no alien fleet could predict: creativity, adaptability, and the courage to act when everyone else hesitated. Their first meeting was tense. Kara stood in the dim light of a docking bay, her sharp eyes scanning Elias as if she could see through the layers of human pride and politeness to the man beneath. "You shouldn't be here," she said, her voice low but firm. "They will kill you. All of them will if you get involved." Elias remained calm. He had learned that the best way to deal with someone like Kara was not to argue or dismiss her fears, but to listen. He studied the data she had brought, notes scattered across a holopad that displayed the movements of unknown fleets. The numbers and symbols were confusing at first, but Elias saw patterns emerging. There was a rhythm to the enemy's attacks, a logic that only someone who had survived repeated betrayals and losses could understand. "They're moving faster than anyone expected," Kara said, her eyes darkening. "They don't follow known tactics. They adapt. They watch. They learn. And if they see weakness, they destroy everything." Elias nodded. He did not speak immediately. He allowed her to continue, noting every detail. There were mentions of new weapons, faster ships, and strange technologies that defied conventional physics. To any ordinary observer, it sounded like paranoia. But to Elias, trained to notice small inconsistencies and read between the lines, it was a warning. "I don't think you're crazy," he finally said. "I think you've seen what no one else has the eyes to see. And I think that could save lives." Kara studied him, suspicion flickering across her face. Most beings, alien or human, would have argued, ignored, or laughed. Elias listened. That alone set him apart. For the first time in years, she felt a cautious spark of hope. Perhaps, she thought, humans were not as naive as the other species believed. Perhaps one could be trusted to follow a strategy, even when it seemed impossible. In the following days, Elias worked with Kara, piecing together the fragmented intelligence she had gathered. They traced enemy movements through remote sectors, analyzing patterns that suggested strategic objectives far beyond simple conquest. The humans and aliens on Lyra IX remained oblivious, too busy squabbling over trade deals and favors to notice the threat approaching. But Elias and Kara did not have the luxury of ignoring the signs. Each day brought new evidence that the enemy fleet was larger, faster, and more coordinated than anyone had predicted. Despite her wariness, Kara began to reveal more about her past. She spoke of her husband, a brilliant scientist who had discovered technologies that could shift the balance of power in the galaxy. His death had been sudden, a political maneuver by rival factions seeking to control his discoveries. She had watched her colony fall, had seen friends and allies betrayed, and had been forced to wander alone through the fringe systems. Her bitterness was palpable, but so was her sharp mind. Every detail she shared was a lesson in survival, every memory a guide for avoiding disaster. Elias listened without judgment. Humans had a saying, "Experience is the best teacher." He realized that Kara had been trained by the harshest teacher imaginable, loss. She had learned to anticipate danger, to read enemy movements, to exploit weaknesses, and, most importantly, to survive when hope seemed impossible. He respected that. More than that, he admired it. He knew that if they were to face the approaching threat, he would need her knowledge and instincts as much as any weapon or fleet under his command. Their collaboration began with small victories. Elias used Kara's intelligence to adjust patrol routes and supply lines, avoiding ambushes that might have destroyed human convoys. They tested small-scale strategies, combining human ingenuity with Kara's deep understanding of enemy psychology. Every time their predictions proved correct, the other aliens around them either dismissed it as coincidence or muttered their disbelief. But Elias knew better. He knew that humans had a unique ability to improvise, to think beyond protocol and pattern. With Kara's guidance, that ability became a formidable advantage. Kara was slow to trust him completely. Humans were unpredictable, reckless, sometimes stubborn to the point of foolishness. Yet Elias demonstrated a rare balance of patience and courage. He did not rush decisions, but he did not hesitate when action was required. He asked questions, sought explanations, and considered possibilities that others would have ignored. Kara, who had learned to rely on instinct above all else, began to see in him a reflection of the traits she respected most. Perhaps humans were not as fragile or predictable as the other species claimed. The tension between them was palpable, yet productive. Kara provided insight, strategies, and warnings, while Elias adapted those ideas into actionable plans. They moved like a single unit through the intelligence network of Lyra IX, analyzing reports, identifying weak points in enemy patterns, and preparing contingencies for attacks that no one else anticipated. Each night as they reviewed the data together, Kara felt a strange sense of relief. She was no longer alone. She had found someone who could listen, who could understand, and who could act decisively. One evening, as the twin suns of Lyra IX dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows across the landing platforms, Kara and Elias reviewed the latest enemy movements. The holopad displayed fleet positions, projections, and likely targets. Kara pointed to a cluster of ships moving toward the outer colonies. "They're testing defenses," she said. "They want to see how far humans will go before they break. If they find weakness, they will exploit it." Elias nodded. "Then we make sure they don't find any weakness. We anticipate their moves, but we stay unpredictable. We use their expectations against them." Kara raised an eyebrow. "And if we fail, then we learn," Elias replied calmly. "Humans survive by learning faster than anyone else. We adapt, we change, we fight back. And if we do that better than they can, then we win." For a long moment, Kara studied him. In his calm eyes, she saw conviction, courage, and a strange understanding that humans often survived situations that should have destroyed them. It was the same quality that had allowed her to survive countless betrayals and attacks. Perhaps, she thought, humans were not as fragile or naive as the other species assumed. Perhaps one human could make a difference where billions of others had failed. Days turned into weeks, and the evidence of the approaching threat became impossible to ignore. Enemy scouts were spotted near human colonies, moving with precision and efficiency. Aliens in the surrounding systems panicked, withdrawing their fleets or hiding behind political barriers. Kara, once resigned to solitude and survival, now felt a renewed sense of purpose. With Elias' help, she could act, and perhaps prevent the kind of loss that had haunted her for years. The first real test came when a small enemy fleet attacked a human supply station near the edge of the rim. Kara had predicted the attack, and Elias had prepared a counter-strategy. Using a combination of human tactics and Kara's intimate knowledge of alien patterns, they managed to redirect the enemy fleet into a trap, damaging several ships and forcing the rest to retreat. Human and alien forces alike were shocked. How had they predicted the ambush so precisely? Kara remained quiet, observing the results. Elias, however, allowed himself a small smile. "That was impressive," he said. "You predicted every move." Kara shook her head. "No. I survived every move. I've been waiting for someone who could see the same things I see. You listened. You understood. That's why it worked." Elias felt a thrill of respect and camaraderie he rarely experienced. Humans were known for daring acts, but rarely did they find someone whose instincts matched their courage so perfectly. Kara was a strategist, a survivor, and now, perhaps, an ally who could help them navigate the challenges ahead. The victory, however, was only a beginning. The enemy fleet was vast, their technology superior in many ways. Kara and Elias knew that this was just the first test of a much larger confrontation. Still, the bond they had formed, trust forged through listening and understanding, gave them both a quiet confidence. They had survived this attack because they acted with intelligence, courage, and cooperation. The galaxy would remember this moment, though few would understand why humans had played a role. Kara stood alone later that night, looking out at the endless expanse of stars. For years she had felt like a relic, a survivor of past wars doomed to wander the fringes. Now, with Elias by her side, she felt something she had not experienced in a long time: hope. Perhaps, she thought, humans were more than just an unpredictable species. Perhaps they were capable of changing the course of events in ways no one else could foresee. And perhaps, just perhaps, this crazy alien widow could finally make a difference once more. Elias in his quarters reviewed the same data again, double-checking every calculation, every assumption, every prediction. He did not see Kara as a widow or a relic. He saw intelligence, experience, and survival instincts honed by tragedy. And he knew that as long as humans listened, adapted, and acted decisively, no force in the galaxy could be taken lightly. Kara had secrets, knowledge, and insight that aliens dismissed as paranoia. Elias had vision, courage, and the ability to act where others hesitated. Together, they were more than the sum of their parts. They were a warning to the universe. Humans could not be underestimated. As Lyra IX settled into the quiet of the night, the distant stars shimmered like silent witnesses to the unfolding story. A crazy alien widow and a human captain had met, and their collaboration had already begun to shift the balance of power. The galaxy, with all its dangers and mysteries, was about to learn a lesson it would not soon forget. And neither Kara nor Elias would ever be the same again. The galaxy was shifting. The distant stars seemed calm, but the currents of war ran deep and unseen. Kara Vesh and Captain Elias Tren had survived the first skirmish, but they knew it was only the beginning. Enemy fleets were gathering beyond the rim, testing human and alien defenses with precision that terrified most observers. Yet for Kara and Elias, each new report was a challenge, a puzzle to solve, a game where only quick thinking and courage could save lives. Kara pored over her data late into the night. Her freighter's cramped cabin was filled with holographic projections of ships, fleet movements, and weapon signatures. Every blinking light, every line of code, told a story that only she could fully understand. Yet Elias sat across from her, silent but attentive, absorbing every word, every nuance, every warning. Humans were impatient by nature, but Elias had learned the patience of a strategist. He did not interrupt, he did not judge, he listened. And that was enough for Kara to begin opening the doors she had kept tightly shut for years. "They're not just attacking," she said finally, her voice low. "They're learning. Every failed attack teaches them something. Every human fleet that survives gives them new data. They adapt faster than any alien army I've ever seen." Elias leaned forward, studying her projections. And that's why they've underestimated us. Humans don't act like aliens. We don't follow predictable patterns. We improvise, we experiment, and we exploit weaknesses in ways no algorithm can anticipate. They won't know what hit them. Kara's eyes narrowed. You believe that? You think humans can survive this? Elias smiled faintly. I don't just believe it, I've seen it before. Humans survive when others fail. And when humans listen, when they combine instinct with knowledge, they can achieve the impossible. Kara studied him, considering every word. She had survived betrayals, watched colonies fall, and witnessed fleets destroyed by enemies who could predict every move. Yet something about Elias' calm confidence, his ability to listen and act, made her wonder if perhaps humans were truly different. Perhaps they were exactly what the galaxy needed. The next attack came sooner than they expected. Sensors on Lyra IX lit up with activity as an enemy fleet emerged from the shadows, moving toward a vulnerable human research outpost. The outpost was lightly defended, unprepared for the precision and speed of the assault. Alarm sirens wailed, and human and alien forces scrambled to respond. Elias and Kara moved quickly. Using the patterns Kara had predicted, Elias devised a counter-strategy. He divided the defending forces, creating false targets to lure the enemy into traps. Human pilots, nimble and fearless, executed maneuvers that the enemy could not anticipate. And Kara, using her deep understanding of enemy psychology, directed the defenses with surgical precision. The battle was chaotic. Ships darted through the void, weapons flared, and explosions lit the darkness like fireworks. The enemy adapted, adjusting formations and strategies in response to every human move. Yet Elias and Kara had planned for adaptation. Each time the enemy shifted, the humans countered with innovation, unpredictability, and sheer determination. At one point, a massive enemy destroyer moved to flank the human fleet. Kara's voice was sharp over the comms. Target the energy nodes near the engines. They rely on rapid adaptation, but their core systems are vulnerable if disrupted simultaneously. Elias relayed the order instantly. Human pilots executed the maneuver flawlessly, striking the destroyer's weak points. The enemy ship shuddered, sparks flying across its hull, and eventually retreated, leaving the human fleet largely unscathed. The outposts survived, and the victory sent a wave of hope through the human defenders. In the aftermath, Kara and Elias reviewed the battle. They're more organized than I expected, Kara said. But humans are unpredictable in ways they can't calculate. That's why we survived, Elias nodded. And that's why we'll survive the next attack too. We keep learning, we keep adapting, and we keep listening. That's our advantage. Over the following days, Kara began to reveal more about the enemy. They were a synthetic race, engineered to exploit weaknesses in organic species. They studied their prey, analyzed patterns, and struck with ruthless efficiency. Aliens feared them, humans admired their logic, but Kara understood a critical flaw. The synthetics could not predict genuine creativity, intuition, or emotional courage. Humans had all three in abundance. Elias absorbed this information with growing excitement. To the enemy, humans were unpredictable anomalies. To him, that unpredictability was a weapon. The more the enemy relied on rigid calculations and predetermined strategies, the more vulnerable they became to human improvisation. Kara's insights, combined with human ingenuity, were creating a new kind of warfare, one the enemy had never faced. Despite the victories, the stress of constant danger weighed heavily on Kara. She had lost so much, and the thought of failure haunted her. One evening, Elias found her alone in the cargo hold, staring at the stars. "Do you ever sleep?" he asked quietly. Kara shook her head. "I used to before everything. Now I watch, I wait, and I survive. Sleep is a luxury I can't afford." Elias studied her for a moment, then said, "You don't have to carry this alone. Humans survive because we work together, because we trust each other. You've survived this long alone, but now you have an ally. You have me." Kara looked at him, her eyes searching. Trust was not easy for her. Humans had a reputation for recklessness, for pride, for underestimating danger. Yet Elias had proven different. He listened, he adapted, and he acted when it mattered. Slowly, she began to see him as more than just a human captain. He was a strategist, a thinker, and a partner. Their bond was tested again when reports came of a major enemy fleet moving to strike the core systems directly. This fleet was larger than any they had faced, with weapons capable of annihilating entire planets. Most aliens panicked, withdrawing their forces, abandoning positions, or arguing over strategy. Kara and Elias did not hesitate. Using a combination of Kara's intimate knowledge of enemy tactics and Elias' human ingenuity, they devised a plan to intercept the fleet before it reached the core systems. It was risky. The humans were outnumbered, outgunned, and outmatched in terms of technology. But they had one advantage the enemy could not calculate: unpredictability. The fleet engagement was a test of nerves, skill, and courage. Human pilots executed daring maneuvers, striking at weak points Kara had identified. The enemy adapted, but every adaptation was anticipated and countered. Kara's strategies, once dismissed as paranoia, became the guiding force of the battle. She directed strikes, identified threats, and coordinated defenses with precision that left the aliens in awe. Elias, meanwhile, adapted on the fly. He improvised when unexpected variables appeared, using human creativity to turn near disasters into opportunities. At one point, a critical human cruiser was nearly destroyed by a massive enemy ship. Elias ordered a maneuver that no one had tried before, using gravitational fields from a nearby star to alter trajectory and launch a counterattack. The enemy ship was damaged, and the human fleet survived. The battle raged for hours. Explosions tore through space, ships twisted and spun, and every decision carried life-or-death consequences. Kara and Elias moved like two halves of a single mind, predicting, countering, and improvising in a dance of strategy and courage. And through it all, Kara realized something she had long forgotten. Humans were not only unpredictable, they were capable of greatness that no algorithm or enemy fleet could foresee. When the battle finally ended, the enemy fleet retreated, weakened and shaken. The humans had survived against impossible odds, and their victory sent a ripple of hope across the galaxy. Aliens who had dismissed Kara as a crazy widow now whispered in astonishment, acknowledging the critical role she had played. Yet Kara did not seek recognition. She had survived to fight another day, and for the first time in years she felt a spark of purpose. Elias approached her, exhaustion etched on his face. "You were incredible," he said. "We survived because you saw what no one else could. I just helped turn it into action." Kara shook her head, a small smile forming. "No, you listened. You trusted me. That's why it worked. Alone, I would have been right but powerless. Together, we made it happen." In the days that followed, Kara and Elias continued to prepare for the enemy's next move. They studied every detail, refined their strategies, and trained human and alien pilots alike. The bond between them grew stronger, built on mutual respect, trust, and the shared understanding that survival depended on more than just skill. It depended on listening, adapting, and daring to act when others hesitated. Kara found herself thinking about her past less often. The grief and loss that had haunted her were still there, but they no longer defined her. Elias had shown her that humans, despite their flaws, had a remarkable capacity for courage, ingenuity, and hope. She realized that her knowledge, combined with human adaptability, could change the course of events in ways she had never imagined. As they prepared for the next confrontation, the galaxy seemed to hold its breath. The enemy fleet was regrouping, learning from its failures and preparing for a renewed assault. Yet Kara and Elias were ready. They had survived impossible odds before, and they would do it again. Humans were unpredictable, relentless, and daring. And when humans listened, learned, and acted with courage, nothing could stop them. Kara looked at Elias one night as they reviewed the latest intelligence. "Do you really believe we can win this?" she asked quietly. Elias met her gaze with unwavering confidence. "I don't just believe it, I know it. Humans survive when others fail, and now with you helping me, I know we can survive anything." For the first time in years, Kara allowed herself to hope. She had survived as a widow, alone in the galaxy. Now she had an ally, a partner, and a chance to make a difference. The enemy had underestimated her, underestimated humans, and underestimated the power of trust, strategy, and courage. They would learn soon enough that some mistakes could never be forgiven. And so, as the stars stretched endlessly across the void, Kara and Elias prepared for the battles to come. The galaxy was dangerous, unpredictable, and full of threats, but together they were unstoppable. Human ingenuity, combined with Kara's knowledge and experience, had already changed the course of events once, and they would do it again. The enemy fleet was approaching, but Kara no longer felt fear. She felt purpose, determination, and the quiet certainty that humans, when listened to and trusted, could overcome even the most impossible odds. And as the first signals of the next attack reached Lyra IX, Kara and Elias were ready to show the galaxy just what humans could do. The nebula stretched endlessly before them, a swirling sea of colors and shadows. Within its heart, the final confrontation awaited. Kara Vesh stood on the bridge of her freighter, her eyes scanning the tactical display. She had survived wars, betrayal, and loss, but the scale of what lay ahead was unlike anything she had faced before. Countless enemy ships, far larger and more organized than any they had encountered, moved with chilling precision toward the core systems. Their mission was clear: destruction. Captain Elias Tren joined her, calm and collected, his presence steadying in a way that Kara had learned to rely upon. Humans thrived under pressure, and Elias exemplified that strength. He did not panic. He did not hesitate. He observed, adapted, and acted when it mattered most. Kara, for the first time in years, felt that she could trust someone completely, not just to follow her plan, but to enhance it with intuition and courage she had never seen in anyone else. "They've learned from their last defeat," Kara said quietly, pointing to clusters of enemy ships. "Every fleet we destroyed, every maneuver we used, they've adapted. They won't make the same mistakes again." Elias studied the display. "Then we make new mistakes, ones they can't anticipate. That's what humans do. We improvise, we act where others freeze. That's our edge. And we're going to use it." Kara allowed herself a faint nod. Trusting humans had always been dangerous, yet Elias had earned it. The enemy relied on predictable logic, analyzing patterns and calculating probabilities. Humans did not follow patterns. They learned, adapted, and dared to take risks no algorithm could foresee. Together, they could turn the enemy's greatest strength into a vulnerability. The first strike came without warning. Enemy destroyers emerged from hidden sectors of the nebula, weapons blazing, energy flares illuminating the darkness. Human and alien ships were caught off guard. Many faltered, retreating instinctively. Kara's heart pounded as she assessed the situation. Panic was an enemy in itself, but Elias remained calm. "Focus," he said, voice steady over the comms. "Predictable reactions will get us destroyed. Act unpredictably. Follow my lead." Kara adjusted the fleet formations, directing human pilots in a dance of improvisation and precision. Every maneuver was calculated yet unpredictable, designed to confuse the enemy. They weaved through asteroid fields, darted around energy storms, and struck at points the enemy did not even realize were vulnerable. The enemy adapted, shifting formations and targeting high-value ships. But Elias anticipated their moves. his mind mapping variables faster than any alien strategist. Human ingenuity turned near-certain disaster into opportunity. When a massive warship attempted to flank the human fleet, Elias ordered a maneuver no one had attempted before. Using gravitational forces from a nearby collapsed star, they altered the trajectory of their attack and struck the enemy's weak points simultaneously. Sparks flew, shields overloaded, and the ship exploded in a brilliant flash. Kara's disbelief turned to cautious admiration. She had survived countless attacks, yet the humans had a daring, uncalculated edge that no one else possessed. Elia's ability to improvise while listening to her insight was extraordinary. She realized for the first time that humans were not simply clever. They were unpredictable, resilient, and capable of brilliance when trusted. The battle escalated. Enemy cruisers advanced, deploying energy nets and weapon swarms designed to neutralize human piloting. Kara directed precise countermeasures, exploiting flaws in the enemy design. Elias coordinated human and alien forces, improvising tactics that left the enemy reeling. Every time the enemy adapted, humans countered in ways no algorithm could predict. Every time the enemy assumed a pattern, humans broke it. Hours passed in a blur of fire and maneuvering. Ships were destroyed, others disabled, yet human and allied forces held their ground. Kara's freighter became the nerve center of the battle, her knowledge guiding the fleet through chaos. And yet, despite the victory, the cost was high. Many human and alien ships were damaged and lives were lost. Kara felt the weight of every decision, every command, every risk. But Elias reminded her quietly, "We survive because we act, because we adapt, because we do what others cannot." A critical moment arrived when the enemy deployed their flagship, a colossal vessel bristling with advanced weaponry capable of obliterating entire formations in seconds. Its energy cannons swept across the battlefield, destroying everything in their path. Human forces faltered, retreating instinctively. Kara felt a familiar pang of fear, an echo of losses long past. Elias placed a hand on the console beside her. "We don't retreat," he said firmly. "We innovate. We strike where they least expect it. That's what humans do." "Follow my lead." Kara swallowed her fear, focusing on the pattern she had studied for years. The flagship relied on predictable targeting, adaptive but formulaic. She instructed human pilots to feint, to create illusions of weakness, drawing the flagship into a trap. Elias coordinated the timing with impeccable precision. At the last moment, human pilots executed a daring maneuver, weaving between enemy fire and striking critical energy nodes on the flagship simultaneously. The attack disrupted the flagship's adaptive systems, leaving it vulnerable. Kara gave the final command, a concentrated strike on the exposed core. The explosion was massive, rocking the nebula and sending shockwaves across the battlefield. Enemy ships faltered, some retreating in disarray, others destroyed. For a brief moment, silence fell over the nebula. Smoke and debris filled the void, and the surviving fleet drifted among the wreckage. Kara and Elias exchanged a glance. They had survived against impossible odds. They had turned desperation into victory. And in that moment, Kara felt something she had long thought impossible: hope. The enemy, now weakened and disoriented, began to retreat. Reports flooded in from the core systems. Human and allied colonies were safe, their supply lines intact. The galaxy had witnessed an improbable victory, a triumph that no one had expected. Kara's reputation as the crazy alien widow transformed into one of respect. She had guided the human forces, her insight and experience proving invaluable. Elias, exhausted but triumphant, turned to Kara. "You predicted everything," he said. "I just helped make it happen. That's how humans survive. They act, they adapt, and they trust when it matters." Kara shook her head, a small smile forming. "No, you listened. You followed my instincts. That's why we won. Alone, I would have been right but powerless. Together, we made a difference. For the first time in years, Kara allowed herself to feel the weight of her achievements, the culmination of years of survival, observation, and insight. She had endured loss and grief, wandered the galaxy alone, and been dismissed by those too fearful to see beyond the surface. Yet in partnership with a human, she had helped save countless lives and turned the tide of a war that seemed impossible to win. The aftermath of the battle was quiet but profound. Survivors praised the ingenuity and courage of the human forces. Aliens who had once sneered at Kara now whispered in awe, acknowledging her knowledge and leadership. Humans, proud yet humble, celebrated not only their victory but the lessons learned, that listening, adapting, and daring to act when others hesitate could change the course of history. Kara walked through the surviving fleet, observing repairs, medical crews, and exhausted pilots. She realized that her journey had changed. She was no longer a widow defined by loss, but a strategist, a guide, and a partner in a battle that had tested the limits of human and alien cooperation. She had survived the impossible, and in doing so, she had found purpose. Elias joined her on the observation deck, looking out at the nebula now calm after the storm of battle. "The enemy underestimated us," he said quietly. "They assumed predictability, that logic would always prevail. They didn't account for humans, our ability to act, to think, to survive." Kara nodded. "They assumed wrong, and now perhaps the galaxy will understand that humans are not just another species. We are unpredictable, relentless, and capable of brilliance when trusted and guided." Elias smiled faintly. "And they've learned another lesson, that when humans listen as much as they act, when they combine strategy with courage, they can change outcomes no one thought possible. That's humanity at its best." Kara's thoughts drifted to her past, the grief, the betrayals, the solitude that had defined her existence. It no longer held her in its grip. She had survived wars, witnessed loss, and endured hardship beyond measure. Yet now she had purpose, allies, and a chance to shape the future. The humans she had once doubted had proven their worth, and she had proven hers. The stars stretched endlessly before them, a reminder that the galaxy was vast, full of danger and mystery. But Kara and Elias knew that together they could face anything. The enemy fleet had been defeated, but threats would always arise. Still, humans had shown that unpredictability, courage, and intelligence could overcome even the most insurmountable odds. Kara's insight and Elias' leadership had created a force neither the enemy nor the galaxy could ignore. As they prepared for the next steps, Kara felt a quiet certainty settle over her. She was no longer a widow defined by grief, no longer an outcast dismissed as crazy. She was a survivor, a strategist, and a partner in a battle that had tested the limits of ingenuity and courage. Humans had listened, humans had acted, and humans had survived. And she had learned that in the heart of despair, when trust and courage aligned, even the most impossible odds could be overcome. Elias placed a hand on her shoulder, a gesture of reassurance and camaraderie. "We'll face whatever comes next together," he said. "Humans survive because we dare, we adapt, and we act when others hesitate. And now so do you." Kara smiled, a rare and genuine smile. "I've learned that, and I'll never forget it. Humans, you truly are extraordinary." The nebula shimmered in the distance, the battlefield quiet, and the surviving fleet moved forward, stronger, wiser, and more united than ever. The galaxy would remember this day, not just for the victory but for the lesson that humans, when they listen, learn, and act with courage, could overcome any enemy. Kara and Elias had proven it. Together, they had changed the course of history. The crazy alien widow had found purpose once more, and the human captain had demonstrated the extraordinary power of ingenuity, adaptability, and trust. The enemy had underestimated them, as all others had. But humans, unpredictable and relentless, had shown that when they act together, when they listen, and when they dare to challenge the impossible, they could change the fate of the galaxy. And as the stars stretched endlessly across the void, Kara Vesh and Captain Elias Tren prepared for whatever came next, knowing that humanity had once again earned its place among the stars.